Okay, we are live. So we are going to talk today about solving systems of equations. I'm just going to talk about one issue that you might face if you were asked to solve a system. So sometimes they call these linear systems. They might, I might say solve the linear system. Linear means straight line. System means more than one line, right? So linear systems, systems of equations, same thing, right? Some people call them simultaneous equations. Simultaneous meaning you've got two simultaneously on the same graph, right? Simultaneous means at the same time, right? And it's the same thing. Simultaneous equations, systems of equations, or linear systems are what you will see. But there is a situation with substitution. If I said solve this by substitution, so solve by substitution. And I gave you this problem. X plus 2y equals negative 1. And 4x minus 4y equals 20. Write those down in your notes. So when you're using the system of equations by substitution, what do you always look for? Sal?
Can I go get some lead from my pencil because it's out?
That's what you usually look for? Okay, yes, you may. Okay, Amy.
You look for the something equals.
Something equals. Well, they both say equals.
Well, the variable that you're trying to solve for equals.
Okay, so do any of these equations say that?
No.
No. So it's got to say either x equals or y equals. It doesn't say that. But it says I have to use substitution. So what do I do?
You subtract 2y from the top equation?
Yeah, you make it work, right? You find out. This one, you could do any of these. They would work on all of them. You could solve for x here, or you could solve for y. You could solve for x here or solve for y, so that it'll eventually say x equals or y equals. Now, usually one of them is going to be easier, right, to solve for something. And Indu immediately noticed, well, that's already just a plain old x. That's great. So we just want to get this over to the other side, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to just subtract 2y. Well, let's see, I'll just rewrite it over here. X plus 2y equals negative 1. I'm going to subtract 2y, subtract 2y. So that gives me x, and these cross out now. It says x equals, how would I write this?
Negative 1 minus 2y.
All right, I like to put the variable first, personally. Negative 2y minus 1. That's how you usually see it. Although some books, they don't do that.
It doesn't really matter.
But it doesn't really matter. But that's what I like to do. And then now I have two equations. I have this equation, and I have this equation. Are you guys, does that make sense?
Yes.
And then now substitution. So what do I do now? Somebody different. Yes, Karen.
You replace any x's in the other equation with that equation.
All right, so I'm going to actually even use a different colored marker, and I'm going to circle. That is the same thing as x, exactly the same thing as x. So over here, wherever I see an x, I'm going to replace it with that. So here we go, 4, and then parenthesis, right? The parenthesis is really important, right? You all see that? Because it's a blob. It's like it's a binomial. Binomial, two terms. So I have to have parentheses. 4 times this blob of negative 2y minus 1 parenthesis. And then I just keep going with this. Minus 4y equals 20. Okay, so now what do I do? Nathan. Distribute. So negative 8y minus 4 minus 4y equals 20. So where are my like terms? I can combine 4y, negative 4y, and negative 8y. So I've got negative 12y minus 4 is equal to 20. Right? Am I doing everything right? Did I do everything right? Okay, and then I'm going to add 4, whoops. I have negative 12y equals 24. Yes? Yes.
Don't you add the 4 to the 4y to get rid of it? Don't you used to do the same thing for the 8, so wouldn't it be negative 4 instead of negative 12?
So I have negative 8y. So here's 0. Here's my number line. I'm going negative 8. And then I have negative 4y more. So I have to keep going negative. Negative always takes me left. See what I mean? Like, what would be negative 8? What's negative 8 minus 4? That's the same as negative 8 plus a negative 4. See what I mean? So you're always going to be going left. So then it would be, you'd add the numbers, but you keep the sign. So it would be negative 12y. Does that make sense to you? Okay. So negative 12y equals 24. Divide by negative 12. Divide by negative 12. I have y is equal to negative 2. And then you guys know how to do the rest, right? I guess it doesn't matter. We could do it really fast. I need to find what? X, right? So I could go back to one of these, or I could just go right here. It says x equals. And just substitute negative 2 in here for y. I'll just do it. So x is equal to negative 2, parenthesis, negative 2, parenthesis, minus 1. So negative 2 times negative is positive 4. X is equal to 4 minus 1, so x is equal to 3. So my answer is, I could either circle this and this, or I could say 3 comma negative 2.
Inside parentheses.
And that's my answer. Right? So it's pretty straightforward. Yes, go ahead.
It's really easy to check your answer to it. You just plug those back into the first equation. I always do that, especially on quizzes and tests. It takes like a minute, and then you know your answer's correct.
Yeah, and I haven't been really good at having you guys do that. A lot of math teachers will make you check your work. And just, I mentioned this briefly yesterday, that you can always check, remember, greatest common factors when you factor them out. You can always check your work by redistributing, right? And then you know that you got 100 on the test regardless. You don't have to wait for Gary to give it back. You just know you got 100. Same thing here. If x is 3, y is negative 2. 3 plus 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. 3 minus 4 is negative 1. What was that? 3 times 4 is 12. Negative 4 times negative 2 is positive 8. I forgot what I just said. 12 plus 8 is 20. Right? It works. A lot of teachers will make you do that. They'll have you do a whole check section. They'll just rewrite this and plug those numbers in. But on a test, definitely do it. Then you know you got it right. You don't have to worry about it at all. You can just take the night off and you can just, come back the next day knowing you got
science
100. Oh, yeah, do the science. Yeah, spend time on science.
What is our science homework?
Okay? So, thank you, Nate. That's really a good point. Was that okay if I'm erasing?
No. Sorry.
Who said no? You?
I have it all.
You have it all? Okay.
No, Gary, no.
It's too late now. I already did.
Gary, why did you erase it?
Okay.
Good job, Adam.
So write these these formulas down in your notes, please.
2x dash
Gary?
it's like
Gary?
Yes.
2x clarified.
I'm not doodling, I promise.
Oh, there you go. It's an easy one. Thank you.
Okay, so yes, you may. So now we're moving on to elimination. Before I say this, Tess, you got a question.
Are you actually filming this? Just the camera doesn't need to be there. It kind of blocks.
I actually am filming it. I apologize. But you're welcome to move over a little bit one way or another, or if you, Sakara's there.
She can move to.
You could move to the front if you want, right down here. I'll move my papers if you want to. Would you like to? Okay. Come on over. If you recall, last year I taught that there are 3 ways to solve systems of equations.
Graphing.
One is by graphing. You just graph them and you see what point, where do they come together, and hopefully it's obvious. If it's not, then sometimes it's not easy to solve by graphing. In fact, it's almost impossible. But and then the second way would be substitution, and the third way is elimination. So I believe you've learned the first 2, right? And you have learned only the first 2. But you know substitution, we just did.
Yeah.
And the graphing is you just graph them. You know how to graph lines, and you just see where they cross, right? Now, elimination is another method that you have to get good at, because in Algebra 2 and pre-calculus, you will be using these a lot, okay? So you have to get good at this. Usually, the equations when you're using when you're solving by elimination, usually they're written in standard form. Standard form has the x and y on the left side of the equal sign, and then just a number on the right side, okay? So these are in standard form. Now, I think actually elimination is brilliant, because when I first learned this, I thought, how did anybody ever think of even trying this? Because I would never have thought to try this. But it's the coolest thing. They decided, hey, why don't we just add the 2 equations together? Right? Watch this. This is so cool. So they said we have 2 unknowns, right? You with me? So I'm mostly talking to Karen and Clayton now, because you haven't heard this. But we have 2 unknowns. We have x's and y's.
Oh my God!
And we want to get rid of one of them so we can solve for that one, right? And in this particular case, I'm looking, this is 2x and 4x. If I added these 2 together, I'd get 8x. That doesn't sound like it's going to help me. 6x, right. But I look over here, I have positive 5y minus 5y. If I added those together, they'd cross out. They'd disappear completely. And then all I'd have left is x's. And it works. It's amazing. It's miraculous, in my opinion. So if I add these 2 together in this case, those cross out. So I now have 6x is equal to 6, right? Oh my gosh, look how fast that was. Divide by 6, divide by 6, x is equal to 1.
12.
Immediately, did I do something wrong?
No.
Yes.
Right? So x is equal to 1. So then, now what do?
You plug in the 1.
I have to plug in the 1 to either of the original equations. Doesn't matter, either one. So I'm gonna just take the first one. It just looks slightly easier to me. 2x plus 5y equals 12. And it says x is 1. So now 2 times 1 plus 5y is equal to 12. So that's 2 plus 5y is equal to 12. And what would I do now? Clayton, help me. How would I go
Y
further?
is 5.
Clayton,
2.
Help me get rid of the 2. I want y to be all by itself. 2's in the way.
Subtract the 2
Subtract
from
2
that
and subtract 2 from that side. So now I have 5y is equal to
2.
Clayton,
what?
12 minus 2,
10.
10. So now what do I do? Wait.
Y is equal to 2.
Yeah, but I'm going to divide with 5. Right. I know you just did that, but in your head. I'm just trying to get you to go all the way through it. Show me so I can write it down. So y is equal to 2. So that's my answer. X is 1, y is 2. So I could say 1 comma 2 if I want to. And as Nate said, I could easily check these and just see. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 5 times 2 is 10. 2 plus 10 is 12. Yes. 4 times 1 is 4, minus 5 times 2. So 4 minus 10 is negative 6. That's correct.
Elimination is fun.
So elimination is really brilliant.
I always find it
It's
easier
very,
than
very
substitution.
useful. So this is our first example. Now sometimes I was very nice to you. I gave you an example where it had plus 5y and negative 5y. So just by adding them together, they were ready to go, and I immediately could solve it. Yes.
But when you don't have like a plus and negative, you have to like multiply it so that it they line up.
Right. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do another one. Can I erase this now? You guys are,
Yes, yeah.
is anybody still copying it down?
Really?
Are you still copying it down, Tess? You done? Wait a second. Okay. So let me quickly grab another one here. That is, okay. Figure out which one I'm going to do. Okay, we'll do this one. It just looks fun. Okay. Yes? Okay. All right. So what
was that?
I don't know, actually. Does that mean? Okay. So here's example number 2. Where was it? Oh, here. So we got negative 5x plus 7y equals 11. We have negative 5x plus, I hope this is not on the homework. Hang on 1 second. Oh, you know what? We're not going to do this one.
Why not?
Come on,
I
Gabby!
put that one on the homework.
So?
I can't believe it.
There was one on the
So
homework yesterday that
we are going to do this one. Sorry. Cross that out. Start over. 3x. All of a sudden it started looking familiar to me, and I saw why.
Like, wait a minute.
Gabby, now I'm gonna erase what I took in my notes before I can write it.
I hate that man.
Okay, there's the new one. Sorry about that. Oh gosh, you guys would have been laughing at me all weekend if I had done that, right? Okay,
We did it yesterday.
3x plus 3. 3x. I'm glad I'm a great source of humor for you guys. Yes, Amy.
Know what to do.
Oh, Amy! Yes,
So
you're getting
did
us
I.
back on track. What do we do?
Yeah,
So you put parentheses around the second one and you multiply it times negative 1
All right. So do you see
to
why?
make the 3y
Okay.
negative.
So remember, when you use elimination, you're going to try to add 2 equations. So Clayton, you listening?
Yep.
You're going to add 2 equations together, both of these equations together. And when you do that, the only reason you're going to do that is to eliminate either the x's or the y's. Now, I'm going to look at this. If I added these together, I would have negative 1. I would have 1x, right? So that wouldn't eliminate my x's. Now I'm going to look at this. I have 3y and 3y. The numbers are the same, but the signs are the same too. If I add them together, I get 6y. That doesn't eliminate x's or y's. But I always look, if there is a number that's the same number, like 3y and 3y, if I just make one of them have a different sign, then when I add them together, the y's will cross out. Does that make sense? You get that? You see that?
Yes.
So if that said negative 3y, that would be awesome, right? Because 3y plus negative 3y is 0. And then there's no y's to worry about. So I'm going to make it negative 3y by multiplying this entire equation by negative 1. And whenever you multiply an entire equation by negative 1, you're changing every sign in that equation. So suddenly, this equation, I'll write it over here, it's now going to be positive 2x and negative 3y and equals positive 5. Okay? Do you see how I did that? Does it make sense, Clayton?
Yep.
Karen, does it make sense to you? All right, now I'm going to just take this top equation and move it over so that I can easily do my addition. Plus 3y equals 15. And I'm going to draw my line, and I'm going to do a plus sign, and I'm going to add. 3 x's and 2 x's is 5 x's. Positive 3y minus 3y is 0. I don't need to write anything.
12.
Equals 20, right? 15 plus 5 is 20. Divide by 5, divide by 5. X is equal to 4. Right? X is equal to 4. So now I'm going to go back to my original problems.
Easy.
Okay? And I'm going to choose one of these. Which one would you like to choose?
The first one.
The top one. Okay. So 3x plus 3y equals 15. I write my equation first. Then I come in and instead of x I put a 4. 3 times 4 plus 3y equals 15. Well, 3 times 4 is 12 plus 3y equals 15. And I want my y's to be all by themselves. So I'm going to subtract the 12. So I get 3y is equal to 3. Divide by 3, divide by 3, y is equal to 1. So my answer is 4, 1.
Okay, I completed the problem before you even finished.
Awesome. That's fabulous.
Yeah.
So fist to 5. You guys all get this? Does it make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
We
So-
need to give us some time to work on our homework.
So I will. I'm actually done. So I'm going to give you time right now.
Were you videoing this?
Are we gonna get our homework back?
Oh.
Gary,
And
Gary,
then-
Gary, Gary.
And then the homework, I apologize. I got a third of them graded, corrected, and the other third I didn't.
Gary.
I mean, the other
From
2
class.
thirds. I
Came
apologize.
to you from class instead.
I did. I decided I had to show my face.
Gary, you said thirds. You said
Places,
one
so-
third was graded and one third wasn't.